Hello everyone. We live in a time of the best technology ever made, or so we think. But is it possible that ancient peoples figured out how to make advanced technology long before we ever did, or even use technology we still don't have today? In this video, we'll be taking a look at some of the most fascinating ancient inventions that scientists still can't explain. Number 1. Flexible glass. Imagine a glass that you can bend, that you can drop and it doesn't break. Stories say that in ancient Rome, a glassmaker had the technology to make such glass. There's more than one version of the story, but the most widely spread version goes like this. A glassmaker approached the Roman Emperor, Tiberius, to show off his new invention. The inventor handed the emperor a glass bowl, which he inspected, then gave it back. The inventor then threw it hard onto the floor, picked it up and revealed it was only dented. He then took a hammer and hit the glass, bending it back into shape. The glassmaker was sure he had impressed the emperor and would be greatly rewarded, but after the emperor inquired if he was the only one who knew how to make it, the inventor was executed, taking the secret formula for the substance with him to the grave. The emperor did this because he feared the glass would make existing precious metals, such as gold, silver, and copper, lose their value. Most people discredit this story as pure myth, but it's still possible that it really happened. Some scientists speculate that the Roman glassmaker might have somehow had access to boric acid or borax, which would have given the glass its unbreakable quality. If the tale is true, it was a genius invention far ahead of its time. It wasn't until very recently that scientists have learned how to make flexible glass. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide whether flexible glass was a real invention, or just a work of fiction. Number 2. Greek fire. The most effective modern weapons came about in the last 100 years, but long before that, in the 7th century, a powerful weapon known as Greek fire was being used by the Byzantine Empire, not the Greeks, an empire that outlasted the Roman Empire by 1,000 years. Greek fire was essentially a flammable liquid that could be sprayed as flames onto enemy ships. Flammable liquids weren't new at the time, but Greek fire was on the next level. It could be shot out 10 to 15 meters, and it incinerated everything in its path. The ship, the sails, the men. It could even burn as it floated on water, so nothing could put it out. Well, nothing except for sand, vinegar, or old urine, apparently. Greek fire was also used on land, but proved most deadly in naval combat. It was also used for ceramic grenades. Part of what makes Greek fire so legendary is the fact that the ingredients were never discovered by anyone other than the Byzantines. In fact, armies that captured the liquid and the firing machine were never able to replicate either of them. Other peoples tried to make copies, but none of them possessed all these qualities. Although the exact formula is lost, historians believe petroleum, sulfur, and niter were likely ingredients. Number 3. The Antikythera Mechanism. In 1900, Captain Dimitrios Kontos and a crew of sponge divers found a shipwreck off the coast of an island called Antikythera. The diving team found many artifacts, including statues, pottery, jewelry and coins, but the real treasure was yet to be noticed. These were all transported to the Athens Museum, where they were put in storage and the statues were pieced together. It wasn't until 2 years later that archaeologist Valerios Chtais made a strange discovery. What looked like a piece of rock had a corroded metal gear embedded in it. Scholars who inspected it and were stunned by its complexity, assuming that it must have been from a later time period than the rest of the wreckage. Because there was no technology to see the inner workings of the device, experts had little understanding of it. For a long time, no one even knew what it was. It wasn't until 1971 that science historian Derek J. de Sola Price and Greek nuclear physicist Charalampos Karalos made X-ray and gamma-ray images of the device, which revealed 82 fragments. There are quite a few lost parts, but scholars finally started learning the artifact's function. The Antikythera mechanism is best described as an ancient mechanical computer, used for calculating movements and alignments in the solar system. These included positions of stars, eclipses, the motions of the sun, moon, and probably some planets, as well. This made it possible to use the device as a calendar. The calendar was able to show days and months and past and future eclipses of the sun and moon. For something made between 250 BC, it was a very sophisticated device far ahead of its time. Number 4. Zhongheng's seismoscope. Zhongheng was considered the Leonardo da Vinci of ancient China. He was an inventor, scientist, artist, and more. 2,000 years ago, he created the world's first ever device that could sense earthquakes. This device, called a seismoscope, could detect earthquakes from hundreds of kilometers away. It was made with an urn, assembled with 8 dragons attached to the side, facing north, south, east, and west. During an earthquake, one of the dragon heads would drop a bronze ball into the mouth of a toad, and this would point to the direction of the seismic activity. The thing definitely worked. In 138 AD, the seismoscope detected an earthquake 600 miles away. Nobody has found the original instrument, so the mechanism inside that dropped the balls still remains a mystery. One theory is that a thin stick was set loosely down the center of the barrel, and when an earthquake would strike, the stick toppled over in the direction of the earthquake, triggering a dragon to open its mouth and release the bronze ball. Another idea is that a baton hung from the lid of the barrel as a free-swinging pendulum. When it swung widely enough, it would strike the closest dragon and cause it to drop a ball. One thing's for sure, whoever invented this clever invention was a genius. Number 5. The Mysterious Iron Pillar of Delhi. The Iron Pillar of Delhi is a nearly 24-foot tall iron pillar located in the Quad-ul Mosque in India. It may not seem like anything special, that is, until you take a closer look at its history. The Quad-ul Mosque dates back to 1192, and it stands around the iron pillar in ruins, showing its age. But the iron pillar is even older. It was built sometime in the 300s, and moved to Delhi in the 900s before the mosque was built. An iron pillar that old should have fallen to dust and blown away long ago, but it still stands strong. It seems the Islamic ruins that surround it will fall before the iron pillar ever does. A widely accepted translation of the inscription on the iron pillar says that it was built for a king, and to honor one of the most important Hindu gods, Vishnu. But nobody knows what its purpose is. Some say it's a flagstaff built for the king, others say it's a sundial. Another mystery is how and why it was moved. But the greatest mystery of all is how it has remained untarnished after thousands of years. The pillar is said to not rust, even though it has a little bit. So how is it still here? Scientists are still trying to answer that question.